All right. We are recording. We are live. I'd like to welcome you guys back to another episode of Building a Brand podcast series. I am your host, Jeremy Patton. And in today's episode, we're going to discuss the topic of aiming high without the fear of failure or the lack of approval. Now, along our entrepreneurial journey, we're going to have to take chances. We're going to have to take leaps of faith. We're going to have to try to acquire new skills, and we're going to have to set ourselves apart and set ourselves up as entrepreneurs and in a different space and realm in which we are normally in. During this time, there's a lot of different things that weigh in on our motivation and on our conscience as far as confidence. Some of those things includes the fear of failure. Some of those things include the lack of approval, especially when you enter into a new space where there are established experts or there are established companies that are already operating that are fully functional, that have worked out all the kinks in their business and that are able to smoothly operate and scale. You tend to compare yourselves to some of those companies and to some of those individuals that are out there. Especially on social media, you have a lot of personal brands, you have a lot of high quality content on social media. So as you are going after your dreams and as you're getting started, you're going to compare where you are and you're going to compare it to where some of these other people are. Unfortunately, there is no shortcut as far as like going through and working out some of the kinks and the issues along the startup process. As you're starting up, you're going to have to run into issues. You're going to have to address those issues, improve on them as you go along. And as you go along, there's going to be more and more issues that pop up that generate that you're going to have to face. And this could be discouraging for anybody that is starting their business journey or anybody that is considering starting their business journey. So that's what this podcast is kind of to discuss some of those issues, discuss some of those situations that you're going to get into, and discuss how you could get over some of those fears and some of those issues along your personal way. Now, the first point I want to make is fear holds us all back. You have to have the audacity to say that you're here now, and you have to have the audacity to say that you belong here. You have to have the courage to stand in your shoes with all 10 toes on the ground and say, this is my space. And having that audacity at an early stage allows you to overlook some of those fears and some of that lack of approval. Again, you're going to have people that are around you that don't approve of what it is that you are doing, or your new rebranding of yourself, or your new journey, or your new path, especially if they're used to you being a certain type of way. And you're going to have people that are already established in whatever industry or whatever field that you are trying to establish yourself in. And they're going to also try to bring you down and discourage you from continuing on. You have to, again, have the audacity to say, no, like this is what I do now. This is not only what I do now, but this is also who I am now. This is my character. This is my business. This is my brand. And this is what I'm offering to the world. These are the services I offer, and this is who I offer it to. And you can't look for approval from other people, because most of the time, one, you aren't going to be able to get approval from your competition. Like, what competition in any competitive world would want to open up a door, open up an avenue for you to join and for you to take part of their pie, take part of their profits, take part of their ownership in the space in which you're establishing yourself in? Nobody will. That's why you have multi-million and billion-dollar corporations that tend to buy out smaller competitors. Sorry, I wanted to adjust for the mic. So they buy out smaller competitors because at the end of the day, no matter how big or small their competitor is, if they are taking some of their clientele away, then that's taking money out of their profits and their revenue. And so you hear about different acquisitions all the time because it adds to the portion of revenue that they have for their own entity. So when you start off, you're not going to get approval from your competitors. And when you start off, you're also not going to get approval from the people that are around you. You have to put yourself in a mind state where you are going after your dreams and where you're going after your goals, even though you can't see it, even though and nobody else around you could see it. But you still have to have that vision and that drive to say, again, I am here. This is my space, and this is what I do. And then you have to have the discipline to continuously progress. And you have to have the discipline to continuously learn as you go. You have to be able to have the courage to fail. That way you could run into those startup issues and you could start getting over some of those hurdles. And the more you do it, the quicker you do it, the quicker you'll be able to get into a space where you're able to operate efficiently, where you're able to operate comfortably in your space, where you're able to operate where people aren't second guessing you or asking you, why do you feel you belong or anything in that manner. So that is a key part of starting up your entrepreneurial journey. You have to have the audacity to stand up and shout and say, this is what I do. This is who I am. This is my company. And these are the services or the products that I offer. And regardless of what anybody around me does, regardless of, anybody that is distant, what they do, I'm still going to continue to operate in my space, in my path, in my true journey, because this is my space. This is what I am dedicated to. And this is what I am going to do until I am finished, until I am done, until I have reached my business goals. And your business goals could be completely different than in the next person's, right? Your business goals can be, for you to sustain income on the side of your 9 to 5. Your business goals could be so you could take over your bills completely. Your business goals could be for your business to take over your 9 to 5, and that will be your fully functional business. Your business goals could be for you to scale and make your business into a multi-million-dollar company. Everybody's business goals are different. Everybody's vision or their definition of success is subjective to their situation and to what their desires are with their business. So you have to keep that in mind, that, what are your goals, and work towards attaining and working towards approaching and getting that level of success for you personally and for your business, regardless of anybody else or what anyone else is doing. Now, the next point I'd like to make is we have imposter syndrome, right? It's a normal thing. Everybody goes through it. Everybody has it. It is something that can keep you back, and it can hold you back for as long as you let it. So you have to approach going into business for yourself. You have to approach this entrepreneurial journey for yourself with the lack of fear of having that imposter syndrome. You have to, again, coupled with the audacity to say, this is my space and this is what I do, you have to also have the courage to stand in your place and to walk in your purpose, right? As you start off, you're going to compare yourself to more successful people. You're going to compare yourself to more successful businesses. And you have to have the ability, you have to have the desire, you have to have the courage to not belittle yourself based off of where you're starting compared to where other people are. Because people have, and other businesses have been in business for multiple years. Some businesses have been around for decades. And you have to realize that they went through their growing pains. Everybody goes through growing pains. This is a new skill. This is a new trait. This is a new journey for all of us, especially when we start along our entrepreneurial journey. So as a newcomer into this space, whatever industry or field you're in, you are going to feel like you could possibly feel like an imposter, but you have to make up in your mind, and you have to come up with a mindset that allows you to operate free of that fear. Because the truth of the matter is, you're not an imposter. You might be a beginner, you might be new to the space, but that doesn't make you an imposter. If you are not out scamming people, if that's not your intention, if you are, and if you know what you are able to bring to your customer, and you are able to deliver results to your customer, and you know and you have proven that, then you're not an imposter. You're just a beginner. So even if in your speech, if your products or services are not up to, your competitors' level, even if your messaging and delivery, your marketing and sales, if that's not at a high level, again, you're a beginner. So this is a learning phase. This is the growing phase. This is the phase where you analyze what you're doing and you look for areas of improvement. You can look at your competitors and you can look to see what they're doing and see if there's anything that they're doing that you can incorporate in your business to improve your business, your offering, and what your products, your services are, what your marketing is. Look at even people or companies that aren't competitors of you. Look at companies that are well-known house-known name companies. Look at competitors that are, that are booming. Look at competitors or companies that are really extremely successful and look to see how they market to their audience. Look to see how their products and services are set up. Look to see what systems they have in place and see if or how you can incorporate some of those things. But again, you would just change it to deliver it to your target customer or your target audience. And this is something that is this is a practice that has been around for a very long time, right? Competition looks at competition. When Pepsi and Coke were going hand in hand, Pepsi looked to see what Coke was doing and they changed some of their products and their services to try and mimic Coke. It didn't work out. Coke did the same with Pepsi and it didn't work out. And you have to figure out what works for you. You have to look at your competition and incorporate and make it true to your brand and continue about your business. Because again, you do belong in the space that you're in. You do belong in the space that you are headed into, or you do belong in the space that you just joined. Now, it is up to you. It is up to your dedication. It is up to your discipline and your consistency on whether or not you will make your mark in that space and last in that space. So you have to do the work. And once you start doing the work, then you'll see that the imposter syndrome goes away. Once you start doing the work, you will see that you are improving. Once you start doing the work, your competitors will see that you're improving. Once you start doing the work, your target audience will see that you are serious in that space and that you belong in that space just as much as the next person. And once you are in that zone of I am not an imposter. Once you are in that zone of working and improving your craft, once you're in that zone of making sure that you know your field, your industry, like the back of your hand, then nobody could stop you. And no matter who labels you as an imposter, as long as you're not labeling yourself as an imposter and you are delivering results, then you are going to establish yourself in that space of whatever your industry or field is. So continue to grind, continue to grow, continue to learn from any errors or mistakes, learn from the failures that are going to happen along the way, and it's inevitable. So if you're looking to start your entrepreneurial journey and you're thinking that you're not going to fail, or you're thinking that you don't want to fail and this or that, and you want to limit the amount of failures, unfortunately, each and every one of us has different journeys, and failures are inevitable. Now, you may be able to recover from your failures quicker. You may be able to avoid some of the failures or more failures than other people, but failures are going to happen. So you have to get comfortable in the space of not being an imposter, but being a learner, being new to the space and saying, hey, I'm going to grow, I'm going to develop, because this is the space that I am in. This is the industry that I am joining. This is my realm. And as long as I can improve on different things as I go along, then I will establish myself in this space. So you have to have that kind of mindset where you're not an imposter, but you are a beginner. And no matter what, you're going to keep going, and you're not going to let people talk you out of not continuing along your journey, especially yourself, because your inner mind and your inner voices will tell you that you're not good enough. They will tell you that you're not as good as the next person. They'll tell you that you are, that they might tell you that you're really bad at what you're doing. And sometimes we could be harsh, and sometimes we are the harshest on ourselves. Sometimes we're more harsh on ourselves than other people that see how we're doing. Other people that have that don't have a leg in the race, and they have a unbiased opinion, and they could observe what you're doing or how you're doing it, and they could see the potential, or they could see the growth. They could see how, they could see what you offer. And sometimes, again, we allow ourselves to talk ourselves down and put ourselves down a lot more than people, that people around us will. So you have to be able to control your own mindset and, your own mentality when it comes to analyzing you. Now, that doesn't mean to take it easy. That doesn't mean to let every failure go. That doesn't mean to, not hold yourself accountable, but that does mean, don't continuously put yourself down, and don't feel like you are a failure or that you don't belong in a space, especially before you even try and before you give your all as far as establishing yourself in that space. Because we all face the beginning stages of imposter syndrome. So you have to, again, have that mindset of, my life led me to this point in time, and so I'm here. I'm not an imposter. This is the space that I'm now operating in. Now, from there are countless of celebrities that even go through this imposter syndrome. When you look at celebrities, and when you look at successful entrepreneurs, and you look at some of the things that they did and some of their experiences that they went through along their journey, you will see that there are similarities between what you're experiencing and what they have experienced. They too experience that imposter syndrome. They too experience the difficulties of not being accepted by their peers. They too experience having to prove their way, having to make their way, making their own journey into what their area or realm of success is. So you are exactly the same. You have to find your own way. You have to find your own journey, and you have to put yourself in a space where you are making way to your success, regardless of what your peers say, regardless of what the industry says, regardless of what you are telling yourself, because that imposter syndrome comes in all shapes and forms. It comes from within. It comes from the people directly around you. It comes from people that you don't know. It comes from strangers. It comes from people that are already in that space. And you have to say, regardless of where that imposter syndrome is deriving from, where that negative thought or speech is coming from, you have to establish yourself and continue to keep pushing forward. You have to continue to learn. You have to continue to practice. You have to continue to grow. And in time, you'll establish yourself as a presence and a force to be reckoned with in that space. So just continue to do that. Continue to grow, continue to push yourself, continue to establish yourself. Now, moving on, we have to look at failure differently, right? So many of us have this fear of failure. Failure is only a reality if you decide to quit, right? And you have to look at failure in the sense of making mistakes could be a failure. But as long as you learn from those mistakes and you try again and you are able to overcome those previous mistakes and you're able to get further along your process, then you're not necessarily really failing. The only way to fail is if you quit and you quit before you reach your realm of success. There are countless companies and corporations that ran into various stages of failure. And despite those failures, they had to find a way to continue to move forward. They had to find a way to adjust and to improve on whatever it was that caused that failure in order to continue forward. And when you look at any successful entrepreneur, look at any of their interviews, they often discuss the failures that they face and the failures that they went into early on in their career. You have many successful entrepreneurs that lost everything when they were trying to pursue their journey or their dreams. There are many of them that have lived out of their cars, that were homeless, that were broke or swimming in debt. You have many that released a product or launched a product and it completely failed. And they had to continue to go and they had to continue to push forward along their entrepreneurial journey. So the same thing goes for you. You know, look at failure as a way to improve. Look at failure as something that you have to adjust and something that you have to learn from. Learn from the failure, adjust, and improve. Continue moving forward. Don't look at failure as the end all be all, because it's not. This world is too big, and you sometimes we are embarrassed of failure. Sometimes we feel like failure is going to be the end of the world. It's not. You could fail as many times as it takes for you to learn and for you to get it correct. As long as you have air in your lungs, you can continue to work towards your goals. You can continue to improve, and you could continue to create and develop a successful business that is self-sustainable and that is going to continue to scale. And just keep going. Don't look at failure as, as a embarrassment, because we all fail at things. Think of a new job that you ever had, right? You get your training. They tell you how they want things according to their company policies and procedures. Then you have the person that trained you over your shoulders to watch you as you go through the process and procedure initially. And there's going to be times where you make a mistake. And the trainer, their job is to step in and show you, hey, you made a mistake here, and point out the different mistakes that you made and help you get to the point where you are, one, confident enough, and two, competent enough to handle whatever the task is without needing that trainer there. And even still, there are going to be times where, from time to time, where you still make a mistake here and there. But it's not the failure, it is learning from those failures. It is minimizing those failures. It is having the foresight to see what you could prepare for and improve on to avoid failures in the future. And the more you do it, the more competent and the more confident you will be at performing whatever the role is in the space that you're going into. And last but not least, you want to run and embrace these failures, right? The fear of failure keeps us all from starting. It keeps us all from going down a path or doing a task that we dread. However, when you face the failure and you face the fear of failure, when you face that daunting task head on and you run towards it, you will be able to get through it a lot quicker, right? Think of it as, let's say you're going on a mile run. And it's so daunting. You don't want to start. You're thinking about, how exhausting you will be a quarter of the mile in or half of a mile in or whatever the case is. And so you prolong putting it off. But regardless of how long you put it off, in order to get to that finish line, you're going to have to start at the starting point. You're going to have to go through those beginning phases. You're going to have to go through those beginning steps and phases to get out the gates and for you to get around the beginning part of the track, and in order for you to get into your stride and to finish that race. You have to start at the starting point, regardless of how long you put it off. So when you have, again, that daunting task in front of you, run directly towards it. Because the quicker you run towards it, the quicker you could get it started, the quicker you could get over those beginning struggles and that growing phase, the quicker you get into your stride, the quicker you can get into the point of working efficiently and scaling your business. You have to start somewhere, and it's usually at the beginning. So don't have a fear over not being able to do this or not being able to do that. You have to have the courage to say, no, like, I understand and I accept that I might not be efficient at this or I might not be good at this starting off, but I will get better. I will get more comfortable at it. And the sooner I start it, the sooner I'll be able to get it over with. And so run directly towards it. Embrace it. Embrace the failures and be mindful of ways that you could have avoided the failures that you were not able to avoid. Be mindful of the signs that were present that you might not be able to succeed in whatever you're doing. Be mindful of what learning lessons come from that failure, and then go after it again, right? So you could now prepare for that task, you prepare for that procedure, and you could continue to move forward. Now, before we close out, I want to go over this article. The Harvard Business Review posted an article in 2018, and it was called How to Overcome Your Fear of Failure. They have 4 different steps. One is to redefine failure. So kind of what we talked about earlier. Don't look at failure as the end all be all. Don't look at failure as the end of the world. Look at failure as a chance to grow. Look at failure as learning lessons. Look at failure as the necessary steps it takes for you to succeed, right? No matter who you look at, no matter what industry, everybody starts in the beginning process. Nobody starts off at a world championship level. Nobody starts off at a multi-billion-dollar efficiency level. Nobody starts off at a multi-million-dollar company efficiency level. And each and every one of these companies had failures along the way. So and they redefined their failures. They learned from them. They moved on. They improved their process, their procedures, their products, or their services, and they continue to move forward. You have to look at it the same way. You have to redefine failure. The next step that they say to overcome your fear of failure is to set approach goals and not avoidance goals. In other words, as you're approaching this daunting task, set different goals to prepare for it, right? Set different ways to prepare for it in your mind and in your body and your spirit, whatever the case is. Set goals to prepare for whatever the task is at hand. Now, you could either do that or you could set goals to for avoidance. So, for example, you can come up with different reasons or ways on how to avoid whatever the task is that you have to go after. And in doing so, it's a mindset thing. So you're already setting yourself up for failure. And if you set yourself up for failure, you go in with a failure mindset, then when you do fail, or if you do fail, then it's going to have that much of a bigger impact, because now you're thinking to yourself, well, I knew I was going to fail and I went after it, I failed, and I shouldn't have went after it because I knew I was going to fail. And you talk yourself out of continuing forward. Instead, don't do that. Have a goal set in stone and in place for you to be more efficient at whatever the task is at hand, and for you to continue forward with the best possibility of success. And then if you fail, then look at how or why you failed and look at how you could avoid it next time. The third thing that this article recommends is that you create a fear checklist, right? And with each fear, you have to identify each fear that you have for whatever the task is, or whatever, like the space or the challenging, daunting, and experience that you're going to have. Write out what your fear is. Then with each one of them, you want to break it down into 3 different things. One, you want to write out what the worst case scenario is for that particular fear if things don't go as planned. Then you want to write out how you could prepare for it. And then the last thing you want to do is you want to write what to do if things don't work out. So in other words, like let's say that there is the worst case scenario and you do fail at whatever task or whatever you are doing. How can you turn around that failure? How can you bounce back? How can you redeem yourself from that failure? Right? It might be something on a public stage where you have to apologize. It might be something where you have to start from scratch and relearn the process, or re-prepare for the process, or go back over the process. So you have to ask yourself, what's the worst thing that could happen? How you could avoid it? And what to do if you do run into that failure? Because any failure, as long as, it's not something that's life-threatening or that could harm somebody else, then you could essentially learn from it and you could improve, you could bounce back from it. So this Harvard Business Review article says to do those things for each one of your failures. Then the last thing that it recommends that you do is to identify the benefits of you trying. So let's say if you have a challenging task coming up and you have this fear of failure, and you allow this fear of failure to talk you out of this challenging task, or you are starting to allow it to talk you out of going after this challenging task. It's saying that you have to transition out of that, and you have to think about the benefits of actually attempting the challenging task, right? So if you go after this challenging task, you go full head of steam, you prepare for it, and things go in your favor, what could those potential benefits be? Could it be a new career? Could it be a new job, a new promotion? Could it be a new level of success? Could it be, you are impacting the people around you, your family, your friends? Could it be that you are improving your personal situation? So you have to look at it like that. And then the last thing, as far as this Harvard Business Review says to overcome your fear of failure, is to focus on learning through and after the experience. So as you're going through each experience, just as we talked about previously, analyze how you feel, analyze your approach, analyze, what and the situation as a whole. And as you're going through it, learn as you go through it. And then after the experience as a whole, look back over what you experienced, look back over and think about different ways and different areas in which you could have improved or done better, and incorporate that into the next time you do it. And from there, you could get over your fear of failure, and you could get over the fear of not having approval of entering into a space that is new to you, that may or may not already be dominated by others. And you could learn, you could grow, and you could establish your presence in that space. So with that being said, that's going to conclude this week's episode of the Builder and Brand podcast. I want to hear you guys' opinions on how you could approach failure, how you personally approach the fear of failure, how you personally approach the lack of approval of, whether that is the people around you or people that are already established in the industry, and the lack of fear of approval of yourself as well. So all those things are different factors. I'd like to hear your opinions and what you guys do. Comment your thoughts below, or send us a message via contact us at babwjp.com, and we'll discuss it furthermore. With that being said, I'm your host. I appreciate you guys for tuning in today. And until next time, I hope you have a wonderful, exciting, and informative day. Take care, guys.